In this movie, I'll show you a few different ways to move objects between layers inside Illustrator. So for example, the first thing I want to do is take my signature and move it to the SIG layer right there. And the simplest way to do that is to just click on it with the black arrow tool to make it active. And then notice that it has a purple border, so it must be on a purple layer, namely the body layer, which highlights automatically. And we also get a little purple square to indicate the existence of this selection. And all I have to do to move it is to drag it and drop it onto the SIG layer like so, at which point it gets a little tan border to indicate that it's on the tan layer, which is the SIG layer right here. Another way to work is to copy something from one layer to the other, and you can do that by clicking on it like so. So I went ahead and clicked on his horn right here, and let's say I want to copy this item to the head layer, then I would just go ahead and press the Alt key or the Option key on the Mac and drag it. And now this object exists on both layers, as you can see here inside these tiny thumbnails. You can also see that's the case if I were to hide the head layer. You can see that the horn is still there, whereas if I were to turn the head layer off and then turn the body layer off, it still exists there as well. So again, to duplicate an object, just go ahead and Alt or Option drag it. I'm going to go ahead and turn the body layer back on, click on this duplicated horn, and press the backspace key or the delete key on the Mac to get rid of it. All right, that's one way to work. Another way to move objects between layers is to cut and paste. So for example, let's say I want to move all this text to the text layer. Then presumably I would try to marquee it like so, but because there's a purple rectangle in the background, I just ended up dragging it. So the better way to work is to select everything on this layer and then deselect the purple rectangle. And I'm going to do that by first undoing, of course. And then notice this little wedge in the top right corner of the active layer. That tells you that if you click on that wedge, you're going to select the entire contents of that layer. And we can see that the text is selected, as is the purple rectangle in the background. So all you have to do is click on that wedge. It even works when a layer is inactive, like this Aura layer right here. You can just click in its upper right corner, or if for some reason that doesn't feel comfortable to you, you can Alt or Option click anywhere inside of a layer. That works as well. But I'm just going to go ahead and click in the upper right corner of the back layer, and then I'll move my black arrow tool into the document window and shift click on the purple rectangle in order to deselect it. Then I'll go up to the object menu and choose the cut command, or you can press Control X or Command X on the Mac in order to cut that text to the clipboard. All right, now I'm going to zoom in just a little bit here, and then I'll switch to the text layer and I'll click on it in order to make it active. And then you just want to go to the flyout menu in the upper right corner of the layers panel and check that Paste Remembers Layers is turned off. I'll tell you how that works in just a moment, but make sure it's turned off for now. And then go up to the Edit menu and choose either Paste in Front, Paste in Back, or Paste in Place. All three of those commands are going to work for you because they're going to go ahead and register that text in the same location it was in the first place. I'll just go ahead and choose Paste in Place, and we can see the text lands in exactly the right position. All right, now press Control-Shift-A or Command-Shift-A on a Mac in order to deselect the text. Now, the advantage of cutting and pasting over, for example, dragging the little square here inside the layers panel is that you have control over where a thing lands. So if I were to select that horn once again and drag that little square and drop it onto the head layer, then it's going to land in front of all the other objects, which is not what I want. So instead what I'll do is press Control-Z or Command-Z on the Mac to undo that move. I'll press Control-X or Command-X on the Mac in order to cut that horn, and then I'll go ahead and click inside this guy's helmet right here in this gray object. And then I'll go up to the Edit menu and choose Paste in Back, or you can press Control-B here on the PC or Command-B on the Mac, and this time the horn lands in the desired location. All right, another wonderful advantage to copying and pasting is that you can copy and paste a bunch of different objects from different layers and have them actually remember their layers. So for example, let's say I want to copy all of the objects on the head layer, and so I'll go ahead and click in the little wedge there in the upper right corner, and I also want to select all the objects on the body layer. So I'll go ahead and shift click on the upper right corner of that layer. Then I'll go up to the Edit menu, and this time I don't want to choose Cut, I want to choose Copy. So I'll either do so or press Control-C or Command-C on the Mac. And now I'll create a new document, and I just happen to know that it should have a width of 666 points and a height of 450 points because that's the size of this document, and the bleed should actually be 18 points all the way around. at which point I'll go ahead and click OK to create that new document. And now notice I have this little layer called Layer 1 here. I'm just going to make it bigger by clicking on a flyout menu icon, choosing panel options, selecting Other, and changing that number to 70 pixels and pressing the Enter key or the Return key on the Mac. If I were to now just press, let's say, Control F or Command F on the Mac in order to paste in front, I'm going to paste everybody onto that layer right there, the default Layer 1. Let's say that's not what I want. I want to preserve the original layers, so I'll press Control Z or Command Z on the Mac to undo that move, and I'll click on the flyout menu icon and choose Paste Remembers Layers to turn it on. And now if I press Control F or Command F on the Mac to paste in front, I remember the old layers, head and body, at which point I can go ahead and grab Layer 1 right there and click on the little trash can icon in the bottom right corner of the Layers panel, and that just goes ahead and gets rid of that empty Layer 1. If the layer had something on it and I were to click on a trash icon, then Illustrator would ask me, are you sure you really want to do this? Do you want to delete a layer that contains objects? At which point I would probably say, no, I don't, and look into the layer more carefully. All right, I'll just go ahead and click off the objects to deselect them, and I'll zoom in as well. And those are a few different ways to move objects between layers and even move them between documents with their layers all together intact here inside Illustrator.